Okay, hydraulic valves. Hydraulic valve, we put you a picture over here, and starting up at the top side of it, at the very top here, this is the main relief setting. This plug here is just that. It's an O-ring plug, a number 2, a 1/8 inch O-ring plug. Once you take that plug out, there's another Allen head screw down in there that you actually make the adjustment with. You're going to get a few drops of oil coming out of that thing, nothing to worry about. That's just residual oil to keep everything loose and keep it lubricated and everything. But that's where you make the main pressure adjustment. You see over here on the left-hand side of the page, don't touch it. That is capped, that is sealed, that is set at the factory. It's set before I get the valve, and you don't need to touch that under any circumstances. Most people think that's a relief setting, and they pop the seal off of it and start playing with it. Don't mess with it at all. It tells you that here. What that is actually is there is a setting that they got to set at the factory because these valves are actually hydraulically shifted. Back in the old days, we used to have a coil this big around it. That coil would just manhandle that valve and shift it back and forth because the coil was this big around. Nowadays, we're using a very small coil. I'll show you right here. The coil we're using right now is a very small coil. And what this does, we send a smaller signal into this coil, and it opens up this cartridge and hydraulically flows this spool and shifts the spool back and forth in here. That's what happens now. That's how this thing is operating, is it hydraulically fills this cavity with oil and pushes the spool by hydraulics. So this whole valve on the inside is full of hydraulic oil, whether you realize it or not. And it does have unusual cavities in here because we're hydraulically shifting the spool. And that's where that pressure setting is based on how much pressure it takes to shift those spools, because we're hydraulically doing it. We're not manhandling it with a big coil now. The big difference is current draw. On the old trucks, the old dump body valve that used to sit on top, the big valve, that coil would draw 5 amps. Nowadays, the coils that we have, 1/2 of 1 amp. That's all we're drawing. 1/2 of 1 amp is all we're drawing. So we've got a very low current draw on our valving and stuff now to help save on batteries and alternators and stuff like that, because you do have a lot of things with current draw now and some issues with that in the past. It tells you what the functions are over here to the side. The only thing that I would note here is up under each function there's a little hex nut. In order to override the valve, all you need is a 1/2 inch open-end wrench. And putting a 1/2 inch open-end wrench on it is just like having this handle right here, because there's the little little hex nut right here. And literally putting that 1/2 inch wrench on it is just like having a handle on the valve, because we're directly shifting that spool back and forth. So that's how we do the manual override now. It takes a 1/2 inch open-end wrench. That handle's not going to be there. Your wrench is going to be in your pocket of your toolbox. All right. Let's see here. I think a lot of this stuff we've already been over again. We have drive lines, tank, valve, filters. Boom, guys. We're at the end of it now. I know that piece is smelling awfully good right now. Are there any questions at this point? Any questions at all?
Does this have a strobe light?
No, we only do hydraulic functions with this. Any strobe lights or plow lights or anything like that, any output electrical functions, lighting functions, are done in the dash of the truck by the switches that were supplied by the dealer. We separate those two. These do not have those electrical lighting outputs anymore. That's done in the dash of the truck, or either done by another switch that's added. It may be a switch that's added to the truck.
And then I noticed in the other manual that the wiring diagram, they're so small in the writing, you can't hardly read them.
If you have any questions about the diagrams, and I understand the more copies they make, the worse they get. The best thing you can do is what I told the guy earlier, is call Jerome in our engineering department, have him email you a copy. That's the best thing you can do. If you can't read your diagrams, just call the number on the front, ask for Jerome, G-E-R-O-M-E, and tell him in the training manual page so-and-so, and give him the number for that drawing. Tell him you need copies of this drawing, or he can send you the whole manual electronically, and you should be able to read it that way. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I don't know, maybe I missed it. Does the display show red or something if there's a fault in that circuit?
You talking about here?
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to slowly blink a lot. If there's a fault in there, every few seconds, it's going to just a little blink, just a little blink. And what you're going to do is ask the driver what is blinking. Tell me what's blinking, and then it's going to tell you what circuit it is. If he can tell you which light's blinking, then it's going to tell you what circuit you need to look at.
Assuming on the touch screen when you go to that, when you touch it, it turns green, right? Function.
Yep.
But is it set to turn red if there was a fault, or does something else happen?
No, if there's a fault here, it's actually going to pop up on the screen. A box will pop up on the screen and tell you what's wrong with it. It might not give you the exact pinpoint of where it's at, but it'll tell you what circuit it is, what you need to be looking at. It's a little bit more precise than just a blinking light. We're going to come back for City of Lynchburg. Since you're the only ones in the room to have this, we're going to come back within the next 30 days, me and Keith, or maybe Keith, and he's going to give you detailed information on this. So this is going to be done at a later date. I know the other guys don't have these trucks, so, you know, and we're getting close to lunchtime here too. So the best thing to do is let's just come back in the next 30 days. We'll give you a class on that. And anybody else that's in the room, if you want to learn more about this, by all means, when we set that date, we'll make sure that everybody's blanketed on it. And Greg, if you can just accommodate, you know, the guys that might want to come in. I'm going to think that next time we come by, we might do it down there in the shop, because you got a smaller conference room down there or something. So it'll either be here or it'll be down there where his shop is at, one of the two. So we're going to be doing this in the next 30 days, because honestly, there's so many things about this, I can't even keep up with it. Keith, our engineer, he's the one that does the programming on this stuff, so he knows it like the back of his hand. If I did this, I'm going to leave something out. There's a lot of stuff here. Any questions about anything else? All right, look like we got plates, napkins, eating utensils, drinks, cups, pizzas all lined across the table. Have your lunch. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully this has helped a little bit, and look forward to seeing you again. One other little thing is purchasing equipment. I don't know how you purchase your equipment now, but if you're not familiar with the Virginia Sheriff's Association, that is something you might want to keep in mind, because there's a Sheriff's Association contract. Yeah, you can buy sheriff's cars and stuff like that on it, but they're selling heavy equipment now. And they're doing it on a very, very small percentage basis. So I don't know how you're doing it now. You literally don't even have to write a spec anymore. The spec's already been written for you because it's on this association contract. I can sell you anything in the world that I offer off of this contract for the Virginia Sheriff's Association. And they get a very, very small percentage cut, a lot lower than anyone else that I know of other than North Carolina. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to leave these up here on the corner of the page, so anybody in your purchasing, if they're not familiar with this, they need to get familiar with it, because it could save you some money and get you some good stuff. All right, that's all I got. Appreciate it, guys.